So, thank you everybody for all your kind thoughts lately and for missing me. Um, Thought I'd explain to you what happened because I'm getting so many messages and phone calls, and it's easier just to make a video. Um, I've just got my voice back, which is still a little bit husky. So I haven't been able to talk for a couple of days, which has been absolute bliss. Although I've been getting a lot of phone calls, and because I've been answering them and continually talking to people and answering everybody's questions, it's not really helping my voice. So I kind of need probably about 2 weeks away from society altogether with no phone, no computer, nothing, so I can actually focus on myself, but that just never seems to happen. So what I want to share with you, I had a near-death experience last Sunday night, which is something I always wanted to have, and I'm going to explain to you what happened. Leading up to that, I was Sunday, I was actually in a strange mood on Sunday, and I actually didn't feel like talking to anybody. I actually did those weekly messages on the Saturday, but for some reason on the Sunday I thought, I don't even feel like doing these anymore. I don't know if they're helping people or if they just read them and chuck them out the next day and go about their life. I was in a very strange mood. And then, of course, somebody hacked my page, which then caused me to it was funny because early on Sunday morning I thought, I'm just not going to have anything to do with people today. I'm just going to go down to the beach and spend some time on my own because I felt like retreating. And then I got hacked on my page and I ended up with hundreds of messages that afternoon, which I then had to sort out. So I was sitting there thinking, well, that didn't go according to plan, did it? So I ate dinner on Sunday night. One of my sons had left home, gone to his girlfriend's place, and my eldest son, Jack, was here with me. I went to the toilet to sit for a while. Too much information, sorry. And I came out of the toilet and then I thought, I need to go back. So I went back and then I felt really ill, like vomiting ill. And I did vomit. And I've had this horrible hot flush come up over my body and I couldn't breathe. Now, I've been having asthma and sinus problems for a couple of years, as most of you know, but this didn't feel anything like an asthma attack. I just couldn't get air. So my son rang an ambulance, and when they got to my home, I couldn't speak. I couldn't get air. I didn't have any pain, no pain whatsoever. I wasn't having a heart attack or anything. I just couldn't get air. I could breathe it in, but I couldn't get anything out. So they were trying to give me Ventolin, which I'd already had a heap of Ventolin and nothing was happening. And she said to get onto the trolley of the bed. And I got onto the trolley and I remember sort of not screaming, but just grunting, going, oh, like this. And she said, the ambulance lady said, what's wrong? And I said, I can't get air and I am going to die. And I went back on the chair and passed out. And that's all I recall about the actual hospital. So apparently I was in the local hospital for a couple of hours. Then I was transported to an Adelaide hospital. And there was a mad panic because I wasn't breathing on my own. I didn't care about any of that because where I went is the most beautiful, warm, loving place of peace. I've tried to describe the words to explain to people what it feels like to die. It is absolute beautiful peace. You can't, if you went on a holiday and thought you relaxed and you can't even explain what this peace is like. I meditate daily. I go into a very deep zone daily. When I do a reading, I'm in my physical world, but I go so deep, I can forget about my physical world and I can go into another world or another realm when I'm doing a reading. And to me, that's peaceful. You know, when I'm doing a reading, I am in the most peaceful place. But when I died, the peace there was like 1,000 times better than a meditation peace. It is incredible. I didn't experience going through some people experience going through a tunnel and see a white light. I didn't experience that. I experienced a male entity that took me somewhere, and I know he was giving me information. It was like a download of information. And then my mum's energy came towards me. Now, my mum passed away 5 years ago, and when she came to me, she did not look like my mum. How do I describe this? When you die, your physical body is gone, but your consciousness is alive. It stays alive. And it doesn't go anywhere. It stays right here. It's just like in a different little realm, but it's here. And as my mum came towards me, it was like this ball of energy, and I knew it was her, and I knew that she played the part, that soul that was in front of me, she played the part of my mother on the earth plane. And I knew everything about her. I knew her whole life. I knew, it's like telepathically knowing everything. And then I saw other souls that I knew what part they played in my life on earth, but they didn't look like we see them with our physical eyes. They weren't walking around like bodies. They were just balls of energy, but you knew exactly in that energy, you knew what life that person lived and what part they played in like my life. And I also knew all the people that were on earth, like my children and my relatives. I knew what they were thinking. Like I knew everything about them, and I knew what they were feeling, but I couldn't feel it as well. So, because you don't have your five senses when you've died, you lose your five senses. So you're not looking with your eyes, you're not hearing with your ears. It's all consciousness. It's knowing consciousness. So I would know my son, when I say one of my sons, I would know his conscience. I would know what he was feeling. But I didn't, like on earth, if one of my kids was crying, I would feel upset because they were upset. But when you've died and your child is upset, you're not upset. You know that they're upset, but you just accept it. You accept absolutely everything. You accept everything about everybody there's no judgment, which is something I always thought when I was doing readings and I would pick up on people that had passed. I always understood them to have no judgment and have total compassion. And when you get there, that's what it's like. There is no judgment. So even though I could see people were upset, my consciousness didn't feel upset for them. It just knew. It was like I could look and you're upset. That's a knowing and it's an acceptance. But I didn't need to change anything because my consciousness also knew that they had to go through that. They're going to have to go through. And I also saw into the future where their life was heading. And if I had have died and permanently stayed in that non-physical place, they would have been fine. Everybody would have been fine. So I was taken, this male energy took me to a place he gave me this downloaded information because I feel like I may have been teaching something that wasn't quite right, and he needed to readjust my knowledge. And then I came back, and I remember being on the table in emergency, and I knew there was physical people standing around me, and I knew there was non-physical energies around me, and they were together. We were in exactly the same place, and I knew I could go in and out, in and out, in and out. I could be in my body, I could be out. I could be in my body, I could be out. Like that. And it felt like it was all in the same place. I didn't feel like I went, some faraway place. I was in the room still. And I knew what physical doctors and nurses were doing to my body. And I also could see what the spirit energies were doing to my body. They were both working together. And I also knew that the doctors and nurses did not know those other energies were in the room. They weren't even aware of them. But the other energies were aware of absolutely everything. So at some point, I recall, this must have been close to when I was waking up, because I would have been out for probably 7 hours. I recall a screen and a screen there and a screen behind me. They looked like TV screens, 4 TV screens around me. And the colours were coming out of these screens into my body, and they were all the colours of the chakra points. So I saw this red. Red was coming out of the side TV, the front and the back TV, and it was going into my red chakra energy point. The colour of this red was, I would say, 2,000 times more vivid than what we can see with our physical eyes. The vividness of these colours was incredible, and the frequency, I could feel the frequency of the colour in my body. And it went from the red to the orange to the yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and white. And these colours were just coming at me from all these different directions. And they were realigning something within my core spiritual self. Maybe I'd got out of balance from doing too many readings. I don't know what, but I know that they were realigning my core. Right at the end of all these colours, I heard a voice say, "She's okay to go back now." And then I suddenly felt like I heard this nurse calling my name, and I could feel myself in my physical body. And I opened my eyes, and there was a nurse looking down at me calling my name, and I said to her, "Did you see the colours?" And she's like, "What colours?" And I said, "Oh, you should see the colours. The colours are amazing. You've never seen anything like it. Can I please go back to the colours?" And she must have thought, yeah, drugs. They always, I've spoken, since this has happened, I've spoken to a few people that have actually died and been brought back to life. You died. You know where you go. It's not drugs, I can guarantee you. And it's so different from a dream. It's so different from a dream. So, and then I was awake. And then it dawned on me, I was back on Earth, and I was looking around the hospital room, and I went, "Oh, crap, I'm back here again." And I thought you probably think you would wake up and be grateful to be alive, but once you've been in that place, Earth is just nothing. Earth is full of trouble. Earth is full of egos. Earth is full of people just taking from you all the time, and people have become so selfish. Nobody stops and thinks anymore before they contact somebody, or it's just what I want to feel like, I'm going to do that. And I was just laying there, and tubes coming out of everywhere, and I'm laying there thinking, oh, why am I back here? I thought I've done enough. Like, I've worked all my life giving to other people and helping other people, and I thought, I'm 58, I've done enough. I actually was so happy to stay on the other side. And when I came back, I was like, oh, I got to do more work. And then as the day, I was just laying, I was sleepy. I was really sleepy. And then my son Jack came up to visit me, and I couldn't even really talk. I had tubes down my throat still, and I was just tired, really, really tired. So the poor kid just sat there while I slept. And, you know, he had to drive for an hour to get to where I was. So, and then I started getting messages, you know, because when someone like me disappears for longer than an hour, I'm missed, which is kind of a lovely thought, but there's always somebody that's looking for me because they want something from me. And the first thing I was looking at all these messages, and I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you didn't die, and I'm so glad, you know, and the thought that was going through my head was, why do you want me here? I'm just laying there thinking, why do you want me here? Is it for something for you? So I asked the question to a few people, like, why do you want me here? Because I had these thoughts that were so clear. Like, I knew what other people were thinking. And like some people, I could just pick their energy, and I knew they weren't ready for me to die because they weren't ready for the grief. So they were trying to avoid grief. If I had have died, they would have had to go through grief. And no one wants to go through grief. And they weren't ready to go through grief. So they were praying for me to stay here so they didn't have to feel something. Clear as a bell in my mind. And then when I said that, they were like, well, yeah, I'm not ready to let you go. I said, so that's you. That's what you're not ready for. It didn't matter if I was in a nice, peaceful place. You weren't ready to let me go. And then I asked another person, like, and she said, well, it's not just that I'm not ready to let you go, and I would have had to go through grief. I want to have you here on earth so I can see you happy. And I said, but that's what you want. You still started that with I want. It's what you want, not what I wanted. And she was like, I suppose, because if you really want me to be happy, I would have been happy on the other side. I don't even call it the other side anymore because it's just here. It's just here. You don't actually go anywhere. Your consciousness stays here. So it was really eye-opening to me as to why people can't let other people go, why people suffer so much with grief. It is in our self that we aren't ready to deal with grief. We aren't ready to let some people go because we get something out of them. Like, so just ask yourself, like, why do you want me here? Or does it not matter? Like, if I'm here or if I'm not here, does it not matter to you? Is there something that you still, am I a support for you? Am I a backup plan for you? Am I there for you whenever you need to ring somebody up and ask a question? Are you not ready to deal with grief? It was such a Monday. It was like my head was spinning with all these different thoughts that I hadn't had before. And clarity, like I just knew that that's what people were thinking. So as the day, I slept most of Monday. Then Tuesday, and by the way, I didn't get any answer whatsoever. Every doctor that came in said, you're a medical miracle. We don't have any idea what caused. You had an oxygen going in and your body was not producing carbon dioxide to put back out again, so you were just not breathing. And we don't know why, because they have done so many tests over the last 2 years. I've done test after test after test on me, on everything, and there's nothing showing up. They put me under a CT scan. There is no. They thought maybe there was a big lump in me or something. Nothing. My lungs were perfectly fine. They're not damaged. I've never been a smoker, so they're not damaged. Everything seems to. My blood tests were coming back perfectly normal. So the doctors were just coming in saying, we got no explanation, sorry, you're a medical miracle. That's it. That's what they gave me. And so Tuesday, I was still in ICU on Tuesday because I wanted to just put a camera down my nose and check my sinuses and everything. And my voice box, which has been so croaky for a very long time, has nothing wrong with it. With a camera, they said it's perfect. Yet I'm croaky. So like so much stuff just does not make sense. As Tuesday, when nurses were coming and going, I started seeing colours coming out of their bodies. So one nurse was walking away from me and I saw this yellow frequency just floating through her body. And as I was looking at the yellow frequency, I was thinking, you're studying something at the moment and you're not getting it, you're not understanding it. I could actually pick up what she was having trouble with at the moment. I obviously didn't say anything to her. And out of probably, the 30 people I saw in hospital, I spoke to nobody about what I do except one. Right on the very last day, a nurse walked in and I looked at her and I thought, she's going to understand. And she's come over to me and she said something about the third eye, and I knew it. And then I ended up opening up to her and talking to her about spirituality. But none of the others. I had doctors, what do you do for a living? I'm a psychic. And the doctor's like, rolls the eyes. And as soon as she rolled her eyes, I looked at her and I said, it's not just being a psychic. I speak to people about their relatives that have passed. And I bring them comfort, because when somebody has passed, they don't go anywhere. Their consciousness stays here. And that brings a great deal of comfort to a lot of people. And as I started speaking to her, instead of her rolling her eyes, she actually listened. But she'd formed a judgment straight up without bothering to listen. So, and as the day, when Tuesday went on, I kept seeing colours coming out of different people. So maybe that's the next step for me, to learn about colour frequency and how colour is vibrating through our bodies and healing our bodies. So what an experience that was. I can't tell you how beautiful a place it is when you die. Please don't ever feel death, and you don't go anywhere. Your consciousness, like I know when I was with this male energy and he was downloading information, I know in a thought I could be anywhere, absolutely anywhere. Like my consciousness could just be there. So if one of my sons were thinking about me, I could be right there next to him. And if another son was thinking about me, I could be right there next to him, even though they live 5 hours apart. I could be right here. I was laying there and I was thinking, we don't go anywhere. We don't go anywhere. Our consciousness stays here. And then I was thinking about when I do readings, because I've said to you a few times, when I'm going to do a reading on somebody's relative that has passed away, they're already in my home a couple of days before the reading. So they already know that their relative is going to contact me for reading, and their consciousness is already in my home. And then they show me what they looked like, or they show me things, because they're just a ball of energy. But I can't say to you, oh, your dad's here and he's a ball of energy. I have to actually say to you, oh, he had a goatee beard and a tattoo of an eagle on his arm. They have to show me what they looked like so that I can explain it to you. But when my mum came to me, I knew it was her. I just knew that was her energy. And the love and the warmth that you feel is indescribable. I didn't feel anything negative. I didn't like, there was no spirits I had to avoid or anything like that. I started realizing people that have taken their life, when they get to that peace, it just must be overwhelmingly beautiful for them to have suffered so much on this earth to then get to that place of peace. Like anybody that has suicided, I can so understand the peace that their soul is now in. It is just the most beautiful place. I can understand people that are in a coma and they are either back and forward and not sure whether they want to come back here. Because here, we have to feel so much stuff here on earth, and we have these egos and we have to deal with emotions, and you don't have to do any of that when you've died. And I can so see the beauty in wanting to stay in that peace. And on Sunday, I was going over and over this stuff in my head, and I couldn't really get anybody to understand what it felt like. And then on Sunday, my beautiful friend Elaine Buckley from Mount Gambier, she's the woman who started me off on this journey. I was 20 years old when I first met her. She's an amazing psychic woman herself. She would do meditations, and together we did meditation classes, and she helped me develop all my skills. And she rang me on Sunday morning, and she had also been through a near-death experience, and she said exactly the same thing when she came back. She opened her eyes and went, "Oh, I'm back here again." So it's a kind of a disappointing place to be back to once you've experienced it. So when everyone writes to you and they go, "I'm glad you're okay now," I was okay. I was okay when I died. Being here is hard work, so I don't know that you could ever find that peace here on earth. And I think you can only get it when you go to the other side. But she also said to me that she saw a lot of blue energy around me, because that I've spoken before. I see these blue people, which I've now worked out they're the blue avians. I'm either from that area or they work through me. But yeah, she said, "You've got a lot more work to do yet. You've got to teach more." And something I always wanted to do was to help people to not fear death, not fear leaving people, because I know a lot of parents will fear leaving their children and leaving them on their own. But when you have actually passed, there is no fear. There is no fear, and you know they're going to be okay. You just know they're going to be okay. So the worry that you feel while you're here on earth, all that worry you create and all those thoughts that go around in your mind, none of that exists when you're gone. So if you're a control freak here on earth and you've got to control absolutely everything, I'll come to tell you now, when you've passed away, you don't have that anymore. It's all gone. That's something you've just created for yourself here on earth. And it may be driving you crazy being a control freak, but when you've died, you won't have any of that at all. You can't control your family, you can't control other people's emotions, but you will know what they feel and you'll know what they think. So your relatives that have passed know everything, how you feel. So if you're sitting there thinking of somebody who has passed and you're recalling a memory, they will totally tap into that memory with you and share it with you. And the quieter you can go in your mind, you'll sense that they're there. You know, a lot of people know when their relatives are right next to them, because it's just, I honestly you don't go anywhere. You just stay here. I can't even explain it. It was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had, and I'm so glad I had it. So let's see what the energy at the moment is. Pretty intense. A lot of people are feeling it. Whether I had to go through this because my friend Elaine said that I needed to go through this because I needed a download. And I said, well, why couldn't they just give that to me over a year's period? She goes, no, you needed a download and a reset. So they knocked you off your feet to give it to you. So they certainly did, but they made everybody panic in the meantime. I've told all my children that, please, if I die, I haven't gone anywhere. I honestly have not gone anywhere. My consciousness will be here right around you all the time, in your thoughts, in your heart, everywhere. You don't go anywhere. And one of my sons, actually my eldest son, said, this may have happened because we don't actually know how much readings take out of my body, my physical body. So if I'm doing 4 or 5 readings a day and I go into that really deep trance meditated state so many times a day, what is that taking out of my body? You know, that could be taking out so much energy from me, and to replenish it. And people say to me, look after yourself. Well, I do look after myself. I eat really healthy. I don't smoke. I don't do alcohol. I do look after myself, and I'm in a relaxed mode. I go for walks. I'm careful who I'm around with energy, because some people are energy vampires. You can just be around them and they are sucking the energy out of you. And you know, you try to avoid them as much as possible without them being offended that you don't want to hang around them anymore. But because they can't see it, energy vampires got no idea that they're stealing people's energy. So I do look after myself. I don't know what else to replenish the energy apart from getting knocked off my feet by the universe and reset and realigned and sharing this story with you. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope you got something from this, and I hope you understand a little bit more that when you die, your consciousness does not die. It's all still there. All the memory of your life is there. Everybody that meant something to you is there. That never dies, never goes away. So just thought I'd share that with you, and thank you for listening again.